Hello, friends and fellow bibliophiles. Welcome back to Kat's Novel Adventures. In today's video, I am sharing with you everything I read in the month of December. December was a really tough month for me. My childhood best friend Shelly died on November the 30th, and then my mom broke her hip on December the 23rd. Needless to say, my attention span was not the greatest, and it did affect my reading life during the month of December. However, despite all of that, I did complete 5 books, and I ended the month with 1 3-star, 1 3.5 star, 2 4 stars, and 1 5-star. And I ended the year with completing 96 books. And I'm very excited about that, considering that I had such a rough second half of the year. I don't think that's too shabby, honestly, considering I also had a goal of 75 books for this year. So not too bad, not too bad. I'm pleased with that. So let's go ahead and dive into the books that I did get to complete in the month of December. My first book is The Murder on the Links by Agatha Christie. This was a book that I chose for my year of Christie. It was recommended to me by Al of Big Al Does BookTube. This is the second book featuring Hercule Poirot, and it also has him teaming up again with Captain Hastings, who is a friend. He is assisting Poirot on this mystery, and he is also the narrator of this story. Poirot receives a letter from a Mr. Renaud who lives in France, and he is urgently requesting that Poirot come as quickly as he can because he fears that his life is in danger. So Poirot and Hastings make their way to France, and upon their arrival, they discover that Mr. Renaud has been murdered. Hastings also has been bitten by the love bug as he is making his way to France. He is on a train and meets a mysterious woman that goes by the name of Cinderella. And she is mysterious and somehow tied to this murder investigation. I had a hard time getting into this mystery, and partly because of everything having to do with Shelley passing away on the 30th. I actually started The Murder on the Links in November 29th. It was my pick for November for my year of Christie. And I just really had a hard time concentrating and really getting into the story. Now, Poirot has a little bit of competition because there is a French investigator named Gerald who is also investigating, and he thinks that he is rather smart and pretty much smarter than Poirot, and this kind of gets under Poirot's skin. So as Poirot is trying to investigate, Hastings is trying to lend a hand, but of course he's distracted because of the mysterious woman and also having to deal with Gerald. The plot is kind of complicated, and it is tied to a previous murder. Like, we're not getting a whole lot of information because Poirot is acting very tight-lipped, partly, I think, because of the competition with Gerard. And so you're not getting as much information as I find that you get in the other mysteries that feature him as a detective. There was some parts that I was a bit confused, and I ended up having to go back and reread just to make sure that I was understanding really what was going on. And I do think that this could probably have been because of my state of mind at the time. I don't know if it's all the fact that really it was that complicated or that hard to get into. Like I said, I mean, I had my mind on other things, so it was really kind of hard to focus. It's not my favorite Christie that I've read so far. However, I do like the fact that Poirot and Hastings were teaming up again because I do like the dynamics between the two of them. However, there were plenty of twists and turns, and the ending was a surprise. Again, I did not guess the murderer, and I decided to give this book a 3.5 stars. It is rounded down to 3 stars on Goodreads. However, this is definitely an Agatha Christie that I will revisit because I think that if I give it enough time since this last reading and I'm in a better frame of mind, it may end up being a better read than I'm thinking about it as of right now. My next book was also written by Agatha Christie, except this time it is short stories, and that is the Miss Marple, the complete short stories. This was recommended to me by my friend Amy at Amy Taville Library. This was my September pick for my year of Christie, and obviously I didn't get to finish it in September and actually completed it in December. So this is my introduction to the amateur detective, Miss Jane Marple, who resides in the village of St. Mary Mead. And it is a collection of 20 unsolved crimes that Miss Marple seamlessly is able to uncover the truth. The first 13 stories in the collection come from a collection called the Tuesday Night Book Club, and it's also known as the 13 Problems. And this is where Miss Marple has 5 guests come to her home, and each member of this club share a mystery or an unsolved crime that they have knowledge of and they think that they might have the answer to. The other 7 stories in the collection come from different collections that include stories about Hercule Poirot in addition to the ones about Miss Marple. This is a fun story collection. I really enjoyed the round robin storytelling from the stories in the Tuesday Night Book Club. There were some stories that were more enjoyable than others. I really liked how Miss Marple came up with some of the solutions to some of the crimes. It's like she has some kind of a sixth sense. Either that or she's just very nosy and possibly picks up on things because she's paying more attention than most people. I am curious to read more of her full-length novels because I haven't had that opportunity yet. And as of right now, I'm leaning more towards Hercule Poirot being my favorite detective of the 2 detectives that I have been introduced so far by Miss Agatha Christie. But this was a 4-star read for me. My next book is a nonfiction book, and it is the 5 a.m. Club, Own Your Morning, Elevate Your Life. This is my first book by Robin Sharma. It was recommended to me by my son Barry, and it is one of my 23 books on my 2023 list, and I was very excited to get to it by the end of 2023 because I really wanted to try to implement some of the ideas in 2024. This is a personal development book, but it is told as a fictional story. It is about 2 people who meet at a personal development conference. One is an entrepreneur and the other is an artist. And while there, they cross paths with a quirky billionaire who invites them to join his 5 a.m. club. So the theme of this story is Own Your Morning, Elevate Your Life. I will admit the story is kind of cheesy and the characters are kind of unusual. You really don't connect too much with them. The billionaire is very eccentric, and I hated his whole surfer dude dialogue, how he talked. I didn't like that at all, and he was kind of bizarre in some of the things that he would do when he was trying to teach these 2 people the concepts that Robin Sharma is trying to get across to people who are trying to improve their lives. But with that being said, I did like learning some of the concepts, especially the ones that have to do with habits. There's a 20-20-20 formula that he talks about. There's a pre-sleep ritual that I already have, a give yourself a bedtime. I decided to do that. That's one of the rules from the Tranquility by Tuesday, but I don't have a pre-sleep ritual, and I think that could be beneficial. He also talks about how important it is to have a morning routine. And then if you do have a morning routine, you implement that 20-20-20 formula. And I don't have a morning routine, and I really would benefit from one. I would benefit also from getting up at a set time. And so that's what appealed to me. Now, whether or not I get up at 5 a.m. or at 6 a.m., that will be what has to be determined. But I do like the fact that if you put some of these concepts in place, that you may end up having better results when it comes to what you're trying to achieve in your life. And I just will say that I gave it a 3-star, and that's only because of the story. But I will tell you, some people don't mind having a personal development book interwoven with a fictional story. They are hit or miss. I have read Juliet's School of Possibilities by Laura Vanderkam and really enjoyed it. And I've also read Chris Guillebeau's The Money Tree, and I enjoyed that as well. It's just that these characters were a little bit over the top at times, especially that billionaire. But if you can kind of get past that and just look at, the meat and potatoes of the book, I think that you could get something out of it. I mean, you can see I have lots of tabs here, and that's because I do find the information valuable and I want to try to implement it. So it will be a resource for me, and hopefully I'll get some of these concepts implemented in 2024. I read another nonfiction book in December, and that is 'Twas the Night, The Art and History of the Classic Christmas Poem. This is written and compiled by Pamela McCall. This book was chosen for the Cozy Cottage Book Club, and I also used it for one of the 2 prompts for Kelsi's Creepin' Peepin' Christmas Readathon that she hosted on her Patreon for her channel, Slime and Slashers. But this book talks about not just the classic poem, 'Twas the Night, which is also known as A Visit from St. Nicholas. It also is about the history of Christmas. It talks about the evolution of Santa Claus. You get information about St. Nicholas. There's also lots of information about different authors who wrote about Christmas time, like Charles Dickens, Washington Irving. There's plenty of poetry. There's one poem in there that I particularly like that was by Louisa May Alcott. There is information about illustrators, especially like Norman Rockwell, who was known to create some really nice Christmas covers for magazines. But also there are lots and lots of photographs. I especially love the photos of Santa Claus through the years, because some of them in the beginning, he is very small. He's not as big and boisterous as he appears to us now, like really jolly like that. He's kind of cute, but he looks kind of like a gnome to me in some respects. But one thing that I learned about this is that the first time 'Twas the Night Before Christmas was ever recited was by Clement Clark Moore, who is the poet of this poem. He recited it to his family in the family home on the outskirts of Manhattan, New York, on Christmas Eve in 1822. And then the first time the poem was ever printed was in a newspaper called the Troy Sentinel, and that is located in Troy, New York, and that was printed on December the 23rd, 1823. It was an enjoyable read. I really loved all the illustrations. This is going to make a nice resource for my personal library. It was a 4-star read for me. And the last book that I read for December, and my only 5-star, and the second book that fulfilled a prompt for Kelsi's Creepin' and Peepin' Christmas Readathon, I read How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Of course, you knew I had to fit a picture book in the month of December. And this is a classic tale. It is about the Grinch who lives on the outskirts of Whoville, and he hates Christmas. And for 53 years, he's been despising the Who's celebrating Christmas and singing that dang song. He's had enough. So he decides he's going to dress up like St. Nick. He's going to dress his dog up like a reindeer. And they're going to take his rickety old sleigh and go down to Whoville and steal Christmas from the Whos. Unfortunately for the Grinch, he gets a surprise or two and ends up with a change of heart. This book is wonderful. It is whimsical, delightful. It has some great illustrations that go along with the storytelling. I absolutely love this story, and it is a fun book for the whole entire family and perfect for the Christmas season. So because I read those 2 Christmas books for Kelsi's readathon, I received 2 cute Christmas corn characters. I got a naughty Christmas corn, my little Krampus corn, because I read The Grinch. And then I got a Santa Christmas corn because I read 'Twas the Night. Aren't they adorable? I just think they're precious. Thanks so much, Kelsi, for creating those little character corns. They're a lot of fun, and I really enjoy being a part of your Patreon. I enjoy being a Kelsi corn. Well, that's a wrap on what I read during December. Have you read any of these books? Let me know in the comments below what you thought about them. As always, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate you watching. And until our paths cross again, stay amazing and be adventurous.